at
Yeah.
3 years old, kids who are like, ow, that hurts. And then the parents who, even with the best intentions, go, oh, you're fine, you're fine. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we're starting that domino effect.
Masking is a word you hear everywhere now. More adults than ever are getting diagnosed later in life, finally naming why fitting in felt exhausting. But nobody talked about how early that begins. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. My name is Kairos Keenan Westcott. Welcome to the show. Today, I am joined by Calial McCarty, a licensed mental health counselor and board certified autism specialist in Washington State. She is an author and parent, AuDHD, and chronically ill herself. She wrote a book about why divergent brains should never bend to neurotypical rules. And this fall, she is opening a community center for disabled and neurodivergent folk. Her book is linked in the show notes. If this talk about masking and protecting your peace hits home today, that is the heart of our entire ADHD deep dive library for $5 a month. On Patreon or Facebook, you get that library and exclusive neurodivergent content posted nowhere else. Plus, Reverse the Mic as a bonus where Khalil put me in the hot seat and asked me all of the questions. The subscription links are in the show notes as well. With that said, my friends, sit back, relax, and enjoy my chat with Calial McCarty. My friends, I am sitting here with Calial McCarty. I said your name right. I said it right,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yes. All right, points for me. I appreciate that. It's so nice to meet you in person.
Right. Yeah.
It's nice to meet you. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes, of course. You know, I know that when we were messaging, you were bummed that you missed Neurodiversion this year,
Yes.
which I totally get because it was a lot of fun. But I'm curious because people like I'm an introvert, you're an introvert. People are often surprised when we end up at events like Neurodivergent or large events like that
Mhm.
because large events can generally drain our battery pretty fast. So, how do you find that balance? I know how I do it and my audience does, but
Yep.
for you, how do you balance wanting to be present in a community with the biological need to protect your peace in like a quiet corner?
That's such a good question because I do think it's so unique to people and their like lived experiences because it's actually shifted for me recently.
Mm,
I've had a lot of health issues recently, and actually, the reason I couldn't go was because I was on my timeline. I had a really major surgery in January.
mm,
And I was supposed to be able to go, and I hadn't hit
yeah.
that mark yet, and I even had, like, a little setback, and they were like, "You just can't fly, you're not gonna make
Yeah, it's
it."
not a good idea.
Yeah, and so I was supposed to present, I was supposed to be there at the author table, and they were just like,
Uh,
"Oh, we're not gonna make it." And so for me, I do have to pace myself, I have to kinda pick and choose,
mhm.
and then at the same time, now it's turned into I really get to make a choice. It's about like me picking the things that I enjoy and I actually get to go do them because my body isn't going to make that choice for me. I get to make that choice. And so my lens has really shifted.
Mhm.
It still, of course, drains your battery. It's funny, I saw a couple of the content that you created while you were there about
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
the after things and the
Yes.
the social events, and
Yeah.
I related so hard to that because I think I would have had a social battery that was enough for, like, being at the event and, like,
Yeah.
socializing, but then the after part, I would have been like, "This is where I have to just know myself and know that I'm gonna be
Yeah.
in my hotel room by myself, just like kind of shedding the day and recharging for the next day so
Mhm.
that I had the capacity to go to the next day."
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, what really helps, is that the people that I was with are people that I enjoy, and so, like,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I always say about introversion is that if you put an introvert in a room with people that they are comfortable around and enjoy being
Mhm.
around, we won't shut up. Like, we like, we will be
Totally,
we
totally.
will be really active, but, like, our battery still drains, it just may not drain as fast as it normally
Mhm.
would. So I totally get you there. And so luckily I was with some people that I enjoyed. But to your point, at the end of the night, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was exhausted. But I also knew going into that weekend how crazy it was going to be. So I went in mentally
Yeah.
prepared for all of that. So I'll say that Monday when I got back, I was like,
Right. You're like, "It's
I
time for the
died.
vacation after the
Yeah,
vacation." Uh-huh.
absolutely, absolutely, which is a thing that we do 100%.
Yeah, yeah. Another trick that I found, like, throughout my life is when I know that I'm going to big social events like that, and I'm probably going to be meeting a lot of new people, when I can kind of create connections, however,
Mhm.
independently with those people before I get
Yes.
there, that can be so helpful too, because then I'm not walking in knowing I'm gonna be making new, brand new connections one right after another. And so it
Mhm.
was really helpful as I was preparing to go to the event. I was able to connect with so many individuals just one on one, even through social media, right? Where we just made these really small connections. We kind of just met and I knew who they were, what they were about, and connected with them on some type of level. And so I felt better going into it because I was like, okay, it's not going to
Yeah.
be 600 new people. It's going to be,
Yes.
hey, I have these really small connections with each of these people. And then I know we're all going to get along together. And that also helped quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. You have a book. It's called Naturally Divergent. Uh,
Yes,
and in this book, you emphasize that neurodivergent individuals should not have to cater to neurotypical social norms, which is something that I'm a
absolutely.
big proponent on, and I talk a lot about. Can you talk to the people that are listening or watching right now? Why is it critical for our mental health in general that we focus on changing the structure rather than changing ourselves?
Yeah, it's so important. As a therapist, I think this is something I talk about with my clients constantly. Whether they're children or adults who have done this for so many years, they are masking, right? We use that term. And actually, in my book, I do state that I feel like we use the term masking in an overuse, but then in an
Mm,
understatement all at the same time, because I feel like
mhm.
we don't talk about it enough in the way that you just stated, where it really affects our mental health. But then I think we overuse it in the way that people are just kind of throwing it around being like, I was masking or I was just not
Mhm.
being myself. And it's like that's not deep enough. That's not
Yeah.
that's not enough to describe what's happening. And so the importance really revolves around people using so much energy. And then, if we connect it to people who are not as extroverted, there's this like internal turmoil and anxiety that truly drains so much, not only of your battery, but like your self confidence, your preservation, everything about you. And you start to question yourself and you start
Yeah.
to wonder, like, am I doing life wrong? And
Right.
then, that internal curiosity too of like your interoception and those feelings that you feel inside, you start to almost like gaslight yourself. And so the masking piece is what actually starts that domino effect from such a young age, right? At
Yeah.
3 years old, kids who are like, ow, that hurts. And then the parents who even with the best intentions, go, "Oh, you're fine, you're fine." And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, we're starting that domino effect. And so then once they're older and they've heard, you're fine," when they do get hurt and it feels awful, they start going, I'm fine, I'm fine. And so
Yes.
that's where those other pieces of masking that we don't dive into, that is one of the pieces that starts really the turmoil of the mental health. And then when we get older, and were these late diagnosed or just late found neurodivergence of any type, we see detrimental mental health pieces because it's literally rooted in their core.
Yeah, yeah. What about at places like at a job, at work, where you don't necessarily you don't have the ability to change much around you, like in your environment and stuff like that. You're kind of sometimes bound to the neurotypical norms of the workplace. How can people start implementing a boundary at work?
Yeah. I think it's really hard. I think that, I speak a little bit from privilege when I say I would do everything you possibly can to find something that works for you,
Mhm.
because I think that so many people feel stuck, but I think that this is kind of that gaslighting of saying this is the only way to do things and this is the only way it's going to work, when truly
Mhm.
that's not how it is in the real world. Now, I understand that there are lots of people who don't have a lot of options and who can't necessarily organize something that works specifically for them.
Mhm.
even just trying to start up your own business, like that takes, funding and knowledge and things that sometimes can come from a place of privilege that you have access to. And so, I don't want to just, kind of like without kind of saying that I recognize that, just say, oh, just go do
Yeah.
your own thing. But at the same time, kind of giving people that freedom to know that it really is okay to say no and to
Mhm.
ask for some kind of compromise and to acknowledge what you need because there is some way to adjust and not feel miserable every day.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah, and
to
it takes a toll physically sometimes, right? When
yes.
this happen, when you're forced to conform sometimes and you don't
Mhm.
make that like for you, you talk about how you experienced a lot of hurt during your childhood by not voicing your needs and just
Mhm.
doing what other people wanted. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
What were those moments when you realized that people pleasing in a way was both physically and mentally harming you?
Oh my gosh. I mean, and ironically, like also I found that as an adult in my work, like and in my
Mhm,
spaces. And it was just one day where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I'm miserable and I had to find something else. But as a kid, I mean, I was so introverted and
mhm.
anxious and everything I was second guessing. And all I wanted to do was fit into the point of being invisible. Because
Mm,
I felt like if I was invisible, people wouldn't pay attention to me and then I wouldn't have to deal with eyes on me. I didn't want to be seen. I just wanted to literally pass through the night and have nobody talk to me, nobody, because anytime that happened, I felt like I had to justify who I was, why I needed something, what I was doing, and then I was inadvertently told it was wrong. And
mhm.
so everything I did was something for me to hide. And it's really sad because when I look back at it, there were lots of things that I felt like I loved doing. Even just recently, I was talking with a friend about how I love music and I love singing. And my youngest child is like very much into that just
Mhm.
naturally.
Yeah.
And we were like having a car jam, right? And my kids, like, we were singing, and then my kids were like, I didn't know you liked to sing. And I was like thinking to myself, like, wow, I'm just still kind of repressing that.
Yeah.
And to the point that my kids don't even know this about me. Like, I
Yeah.
still really need to reflect on that. And so
Yeah.
it as a child, like not only did I do that for other people to what I thought was protecting myself, right, from that anxiety and trying to not be seen, but it even stopped me from exploring things that I enjoyed because I just didn't want to stand out for any reason, even if it was
Yeah.
good. Like the good praise was just as bad as like something negative.
Yeah. Yeah. When did you start to unlearn that behavior? Like, what was the point that you're like, "Oh, I need to make some changes here."
Well, I was 35, or I
Okay.
am 35 now, and I started going through my master's program, when I was 30 no, 30, 29, and it was about that same time that I started having my kiddos really struggling. And so it kind of all happened at the same time as soon as I graduated from my master's and I went into working for like a group practice. I was struggling with the hours, I was struggling with just the requirement of what was happening at my workplace, and not that they were doing anything bad. It was just I needed to be able to kind of do my own thing, have different hours. My kids needed doctors' evaluations, and it felt like everything was falling apart at home. I just was like, "Okay, I can't keep doing this. Something has to change." And it was
Right.
literally not until that where I was like, "I need to start being me. I gotta unlearn this."
Yeah.
And so it was, I mean, it's only been 4 years that I've really
Yeah.
just been like, I'm gonna be myself. I need to demonstrate this for my children. I don't want them growing up like I did. Like that's
Yeah.
absolutely miserable. I want them to have the confidence to be themselves.
Yeah. Before that moment, did it feel like a moral failing? Like, was it what did it feel like you were morally failing both, like, yourself and your children?
Yeah, it's funny because I think I was in such survival mode at that moment
Mm,
that it was like I didn't even have time to stop and think of it
yeah,
being a moral thing. I think now where I have time to breathe and, like, I do believe that, but at the time,
yeah,
it was, like, strictly survival. I was totally in burnout. I literally couldn't get my kids to their appointments because they were at the same time as work, but, like, work wasn't paying for bills. Like, it was just this, like, awful
mhm,
cycle. And so, like, yes, now that I look back at it, I'm like, absolutely, that was a moral thing. Like, I wanted to be a great example for my kids. And again, I didn't want them to suffer the same way I did, even
yeah,
by my own doing, right? Like I mentally was the one who turned myself inside out, right? And
yeah, yeah,
I didn't want them to do the same thing.
yeah. So, what's great is that you're a clinician and you are AuDHD, which
Mhm.
means that you get multiple perspectives on this entire thing. So when somebody comes to you and they say, "Help me," like how do you help your clients, get to a point to where you are today? What's one of the first things that you do with them?
One of the first things I do with them is I become vulnerable to them. And I think
Interesting.
it is one of the most beautiful things. And honestly, sometimes it's more with the parents when they're coming to me with their children than it actually is with the late diagnosed adults.
Mm,
They come to me normally saying that they've been turned away by all these professionals, that they can't find anyone who helps them, that they've been, accused that it's their parenting. And I'm like, not only do I get this as a person who has been through this myself with lived experience, but I get this as a parent. Like I went through this with my own kids who have, alphabet soup behind their name of diagnoses.
mhm.
And I've been accused of my own parenting being the reason that my kids are who they are.
Sure.
And all you have to say to them is, it's not you, and I get it. And what you're going through is absolutely awful. And I'm here with you, and we're going to do this together. And the amount of relief and support that they get from that is cathartic in itself. And
Mhm.
it honestly blows my mind that it takes them however many professionals and other clinicians that don't do that. And maybe this is my autism speaking, but I don't understand how other people just can't say that and
Yeah.
can't be there for them. It really is mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Because that's all they're looking for. They're struggling so much, and
Mhm.
when I'm working with the kids or adults who are late diagnosed and I bring out that vulnerability and I know they're not gonna be the one to be vulnerable because 'cause they've probably done that before and they've been turned away, and so that's why I choose to be vulnerable first, and I say,
Yeah.
"Hey, I get it. I've been where you are. Here's kind of my background, and I am doing this job because I was you and I couldn't find someone to help me, and so I wanna be that person,
Right.
and you're in charge. Like,
Yeah.
this is you, you're leading this, and I'm just here with you, and hopefully we can partner together and we're gonna figure it out."
Yeah, and you do all this and 'cause, while and you're doing all this while also being chronically ill, right? You're
Yeah.
you're being a parent, an author, clinic owner, all of these things, all while being chronically ill, and I know that there's a lot of, people that watch this that, are also chronically ill, and I feel like it's a conversation that I think we need to have more often about how chronic illness can affect mental health, just overall. And I think we need to have that conversation. For you, what does the reality of chronic illness, how does that like force you to redefine what a successful day looks like for you?
It's really difficult. It's something that I've had to come to terms with myself, and I think lots of, chronically ill people, disabled people do in their lifetime, and I think also learning how to redefine it as your body changes too. But for me, like, the reality is that there are some days where I wake up and I just can't see my clients that day, and having to kind
Mhm.
of deal with the guilt of that because I get that they need to see me just as bad as also I still have to make a living. And when I don't see clients, I can't pay for groceries and our house
Right.
bill. And so, like, I love my job and I love my work, but it is still my livelihood. And
Yeah, and you
so
are human. You're a human
right,
being. Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
so it's this guilt that I feel, especially like this is a very like minor piece of it, but sometimes if it's been like the same day a couple times in a month, I feel awful that I'm like, God, this is the same client. I'm noticing a pattern. Like for
Mhm.
whatever reason, my body just hates Tuesdays for a while. I don't know what it is, right?
Yeah,
And like I'm
yeah.
having this flare up. And so, like, there are these little pieces that I think a lot of people don't see of like, yes, we send the email out that's like, sorry, today, I have to cancel, let's reschedule. But we do understand how disruptive that can be to other people's lives. And we don't enjoy doing it, but we also want people to know that it's like we're not just sitting here like having popcorn watching movies, we're not
Right.
going anywhere. Like we are, for me, when I have to cancel, it's like I can't keep my eyes open. Like my eyes are literally like they feel like massive weights and I literally fall asleep. I feel like I
Mhm.
have the flu. It's like
Yeah.
things like that. And then, I think also it's like redefining, learning that a lot of the things that I might want to go and do, I have to plan around knowing that seeing my clients and doing my work is really important. And if I put myself into a flare over the weekend and then would have to cancel on my clients. And so now it's like also knowing that my work and our livelihood and my clients are very important. And so sometimes that means I'm doing less on the weekends with my
Mhm.
kids and my family.
It's
And
like
so that's
proactively, like, trying to prepare for what's coming, right?
yep,
Kinda thing, and I'm curious, like, even with the proactive type of work that you do, obviously, there's gonna be days when you're just like, "I can't,"
yeah.
right? Like, and you were just talking about just now. How do you avoid beating yourself up? Or you might do it, but, like, how do you talk yourself out of it? Because you work so hard on so
Yeah.
many different things. You wear a lot of hats. You're a mom 24/7, that's not a part-time job, type of thing. How do you stay positive, not just for yourself, but also for your kids and your family, your patients? How do you stay positive through all this?
Again, a while ago, that was really hard. This surgery that I had has been really like life-changing for me in a way. It started literally 2 years ago, like September 2024 was when I first had this like weird pain in my hip. Literally woke up one day and like excruciating pain in my hip. No idea what happened. They're like,
Mhm.
"Did you injure yourself?" I'm like, "Absolutely not. Just woke up, couldn't deal."
Yeah.
Fast forward and July 2025, I came home from my in-person office and I was like in tears, basically crawling into my house. I couldn't walk anymore. I don't know what happened. And I had to be taken to the emergency room. Finally, I was completely immobile all the way until January when they finally gave me surgery. And so now for me, I am finally learning how to walk again. I have an amazing PT who's working me through all of this. And my positive outlook now is I can walk again. I see a future where I'm able to go out and travel again, which is something I love. I'm going to go do awesome things with my family. Where before it was hard to even envision that because doctor after doctor turned me away, told me I was being dramatic and that I was fine and like, your blood tests don't do anything and like all the things we hear. And
Yeah.
finally, I had an amazing doctor who was like, "Oh my god, like this is like kind of like out of socket like all the time and there's like a tumor and like we need to like fix this now." And I was
Mhm.
like, "Thank you." Like, this is
Yeah.
not normal. So,
Yeah.
my positive outlook truly is, like, based on that, and I'm like, I can walk again, and so, like, a
Mhm.
couple days here and there where I need to just recover doesn't seem like a big deal anymore.
Right, right. And I'm happy that you advocated for yourself because we know our bodies, we know when something is off. And I tell people all the time, advocate for yourself. If something feels off,
Yeah,
like you
absolutely.
feel it, like something is not right. What I also like that what you're doing, you're opening the NeuroBloom Center this fall to
Yes.
center disabled and neurodivergent individuals. Tell me about that. What is the goal? How are you going to be helping people with this?
Oh my gosh, we are so excited about this.
Yeah.
Also I don't think my husband is ever gonna allow me to have that much downtime ever again in my life because this is what
Yeah.
happens.
I say that to people all the time. The last time I got bored, I wrote a book. So, like, I'm like, I need to,
Right.
like
Yeah, he was like, "Yeah, I don't think we can afford the next time you ever have something like this."
Yeah.
No, but oh my gosh, we are so excited. So, yeah, I had some months to myself and I was just
Mhm.
like, I do know future planning. I maybe won't be able to, in my health, see one-to-one clients like this all the time. And so, what can
Mhm.
we do on a larger scale to support people, help people in our community? Taking kind of all the notes of people around my community and just my clients too, talking about what's missing, me thinking about where I would want to take my kids that we just don't have here. And so that's where I kind of thought of this center where it's kind of like a community center model. And so what we're doing is we're centering disabled and or neurodivergent individuals right there at the root of it. And we are basically saying that this place is made for us, with us, by us. And it is where anyone can come. We're going to have a sensory gym for all ages, a small fitness center with
Amazing.
equipment that is actually ADA accessible. There's going to be a small cafe. I have celiac disease, and like, there's
Mm.
not a lot of places here to eat. So, our cafe is going to partner with somebody who is pretty far out of town who does have amazing food that is
That's
completely
amazing.
certified. So, we're bringing
Mhm.
that in. We're going to have a library and then like a game room. And then what we're doing is we're partnering with independently licensed professionals and they're going to occupy the offices. And so we're going to, instead of like referring out for people to go see their medical providers, other
Mhm.
therapists, OTs, PTs, we're actually going to bring them here. And so we're hoping to kind of make it like a one-stop shop and hopefully kind of decrease the amount of trauma that happens when they see other providers because they're not sure what their missions are, how they treat neurodivergent and or disabled individuals. And so, we're hoping to kind of have a united framework so that people really know what they're going to be getting and know that these people are specialized and can provide for them.
That's amazing. That's really great, and I love that you're making this because this kind of stuff is not easy to find sometimes, and you're making it
Right.
very accessible, both obviously logistically, but also physically as well. You're
Yeah.
making this a very accessible thing. So I appreciate you putting the work into this, and I'm kind of happy that you had some time, like
Right.
to to come up with something like this. Because I mean, if anything, you're saving lives. You're helping people better their
Oh,
lives, which is really, really important, especially in today's world. And I always like making sure people have actionable things that they can do, like after they listen to the pod. Like it's like, okay, what can they do immediately after
yeah,
they're done listening? So someone reading Naturally Divergent, they might feel validated, of course, but also totally overwhelmed by where to start setting
yeah.
boundaries. So, how can a listener begin taking accountability for their environment without burning themselves out?
Totally. Yeah, I think some of the first steps are deciding what things are priorities for them. So, like,
Mm,
in their everyday life, what things maybe cause them the most frustration, the most anxiety, and thinking about like, depending on how overwhelmed someone gets, if like having a top three feels comfortable, do that. If you need to pick one, do that. But I think just really focusing in on what your heavy hitters are. So, for me, it was just the masking specifically around mannerisms with people. I first just started going like, "Hey, I realized that I try to make eye contact like an awkward eagle. And
yeah.
like, I need to stop doing that because it's actually exhausting. And I'm also literally not listening because I'm just checking in my head. Are you doing
Yeah.
this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? And so I just started doing those things that I saw were huge pieces in my day that just really took the energy out of me and also really bothered me. And
Mhm.
so I just started small like that. And then once I felt comfortable, I started taking on bigger things. And, I personally asked for help from my own therapist. And so I would also say, if you're comfortable, don't do it alone. Like, pick
Mhm.
someone in your family, pick a therapist, a professional who it's within their scope of practice. Don't just pick anybody.
Right.
Pick a friend, pick
Yeah.
someone that you really truly trust. Because doing this alone can be really difficult and also in itself just feel overwhelming.
Sure, absolutely. And again, if people are listening and they're like, I want to read a Naturally Divergent, all of those links will be in the show notes of this episode. So all you have to do is go click, and all of the information will be there. I want to play a
Wonderful.
little game with you, Cleo.
Okay.
It's called
Okay.
This or That. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two options of something, and you
Okay.
can either choose one or the other or both or neither. It is not deep. I
Okay.
promise you. You can choose whatever you
Okay.
want and then just go with whatever your gut tells you. Okay.
Okay, deal.
Okay. All right. First one. Here we go. Coffee or tea?
Well, coffee all the way. I'm a
Yeah.
huge
Yeah.
coffee person.
Yeah, I'm very much a tea person, but like a good coffee every now and then for me is it hits the spot. And there's a wonderful coffee shop right across the street from where I live, and so I'm quite often in there having their coffee. So I love it. Number two, writing a book or running a clinic.
Oh, writing a book
Yeah,
fully,
yeah,
running a clinic and being in charge of other people like that, that is
yeah.
an introvert no. Sorry.
I totally get it. I think I know the answer to the next one, but
Okay.
a quiet corner or a loud convention.
Quiet corner, but if I can find a quiet corner in the loud convention, I'm okay with that
Yes.
too.
So there's a reason why I said that because, and you answered it perfectly, because while I was at Neurodivergent 2026, I was peopling all day and like on top of the people that I was there with and having fun with, obviously there was a lot of people that follow me and like wanted to talk to me and take pictures and stuff like
Yeah.
that, which I'm very flattered by. I have no problem doing that. But it's also very exhausting. So I'll never forget finding this like little corner in the corner of this major conference. There's like all this talking going on, and I just sat there and I put my AirPods in. I wasn't even listening to anything. I just put my AirPods in and I was
Yep.
just kind of chilling. And the benefit of being a content creator that talks about introversion all the time is that the people that follow me that were there, they knew what was going on, and
Right.
so they knew to leave me alone and that it wasn't anything personal. Like I was just like, let me go recharge in this public space for a second. So you
Absolutely.
answered that perfectly. I'm glad you said that.
I love it. No, we were at like a Lego convention. My kids
Hmm.
love Legos and
Yeah.
my oldest is like a boss at Legos. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
crazy busy. And
Hmm.
I just needed a breath. It was like space issue and also just so many
Yeah.
people. And I did the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
guys, you just keep going for a sec. I need to just, and I was like in the corner, put my noise canceling
Yeah.
headphones in, and I was just sitting there and I had to like look at the ground and I just needed
Hmm.
like complete silence for a minute. So,
Yes. And it's totally okay to do that. Anybody that's watching or listening, just
yeah.
know it's totally okay to do that. You don't have to be on at all time. Like if you're at work, if you're at a
Yes.
conference, find a little space that you can just like decompress for a little bit, recharge.
Mhm.
Even if it's not a full recharge, it's like this little just break because that's going to pay dividends for you in the long run. So
Yes.
I
And
think
I
you
want
made
to
the right decision. Yeah.
add like a footnote for us
Yeah.
females. It's also okay to do whatever the heck you want with your face. Like, don't even worry. Like, don't worry. Nobody should call you out for saying that you
Yeah.
have like a resting mean face or like
Yeah. Yeah.
anything like that. You go do what you want with your face. It does not have to be on either. Like,
Amen to
go
that.
for it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Amen to that.
Well, next
Next,
year,
yeah.
I'll find a corner somewhere in the
Just make sure
same
it's not
area.
my corner. No, it's fine.
No,
I'm
oh
kidding. No, I
no,
was kidding.
no,
I don't own it. I
no.
don't own it.
There's gonna be next year, there's just gonna be all the corners taken. Like
Yeah.
everyone's gonna be
What's wh- I don't mind being around people. It's like what drains my battery is being with people. Like that
totally.
can drain my battery. So like if somebody's like
Mhm.
right next to me, that doesn't bother me. But if we're
Yeah,
having a full blown conversation, that I'm gonna be like, okay, can you give me a second? Type of thing.
totally.
Next one, scheduled routines or going with the flow.
Feel like I'm a little bit okay. It's funny because this is a question I have to ask people on assessments, right?
Hmm.
So, okay, I have the answer for me. So, schedule. However, if I'm the one who is in charge of going with the flow,
Mhm.
totally fine. If someone else wants to make plans for me and then I have to go with their flow, absolutely not.
I totally get what you mean there. I totally get it. That's so funny that you framed it that way. So that's awesome. And then last one, texting or calling?
Okay, so texting mostly. However, if it feels exhausting to text what I'm trying to say
Mhm.
in the moment, if I decide to call you, that's totally fine. If someone is randomly calling me, I will not be picking up.
I feel every single word of that. Absolutely. 100%. That's so funny. I love that. So anybody that's listening or watching right now and they're like, "Oh, I like her a lot. I want to learn more." What can they do? How can they find you? How can they get a copy of your book? All of that.
Yeah, so the book, it's out on paperback, ebook, and now some audiobook links are out too. It's on some platforms, and so they can find it on Amazon, which just helps it get more worldwide.
Mhm.
And then Bookshop has it. There's some local bookstores where you can go and grab it. And then as far as, finding me, I'm on Instagram. So my handle is at Naturally Divergent Therapist. I also am on Facebook, just as my name, Calial McCarty. You can also check out the beginning of our Instagram for the NeuroBloom Center, and that's linked to our Instagram as well. You can check out to our just my therapy page as well, and all of those links are in there, and you can check those
Yeah.
out.
And I will also include all of those links in the show notes of this. So all you have to do is go click, go check her out, go get the book, all of that, because I think that you're going to get something really, really good at it out of it. I want to ask you one more
Thank you.
question. And this is
Okay.
the a question that I ask all my guests as the last question. If there's one thing that you want the audience to take away from our conversation today, what is that one thing?
Oh, that's tough. Okay. Uh, that I guess we were talking about introvert quite a bit. So just that being yourself is like absolutely okay. And that if you're around a bunch of people who don't find that to be okay, it's not you. It might be the people that you're around. And there are going to be people out there who accept you for who you are. So don't change you.
I love that. I love that. And I appreciate you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. At the top, I said nobody talks about how early masking begins. Khalil gave that a picture I cannot shake. A little kid saying, "Oh, that hurts," and hearing you're fine until they say it to themselves. That reframed so much for me. How long I spent performing okay when I wasn't, and how being yourself was never the problem. If she resonated with you, the best next step is to grab her book, and the link for that is in the show notes. Right after that, leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening on right now. Make sure you follow me at The Vibe with Kai on all of your favorite social media platforms and visit thevibewithkai.com for the ADHD digital store, the ADHD blog, the ADHD email list, the ADHD podcast episodes just like this, and more for subscribing for $5 a month for exclusive content you're not going to get anywhere else surrounding the ADHD world. With that said, my friends, thank you so much for watching and for listening. As always, much love, good vibes. I'll catch you next time. Bye.